All right, well, so we're here. I'm Chris, and we're here with Devin Nash. He's the CEO of CLG. You guys have probably heard of that. And he also is a motivational speaker. And I saw that he was here, and I was like, I really want to talk to him because, you know, just the content that he can have is really awesome. So we're just going to have a conversation. And so how this goes, that's pretty much what you're going to be following. So, Devin, nice to meet you. I'd like you to do an introduction if I missed anything, though, real quick. Other than that, we can just kind of go.
Sure. So, where do I start? I guess I've run businesses since I was 16 years old. My first business was a marketing company. We did ebooks for self-improvement to people on the internet. This was back in the days of Google AdWords and your one-page SEO, like where you had those big red letters like buy, buy, buy type stuff. And that went really well, and I eventually had to go to college and actually do something. My parents wanted me to go, so I did that, started the business doing IT services out of college, helping people fix computers, and then decided I really like this gaming thing. The computer thing is getting into that, but and that's why I came across this service called Twitch TV. And so Twitch at the time was actually still Justin TV, and I started broadcasting there because I wanted I like this idea of self-improvement that I'd been obsessed with my entire life. And I'd read over 700 books, and I'd been so passionate about it. I really wanted to take that to a different medium or a different platform, but I didn't know how to do it. And I thought Twitch was a really cool opportunity to get that out there live. So I started a broadcast that was a combination of self-improvement and gaming. And we'd take games like League of Legends, and then we'd say, okay, is there like two ways to think about this where you could go into the game and learn about the skills that you're doing, but you could also like pick up something from self-improvement. Right. And so that got some attention, and then eventually got picked up by Riot Games, who did a feature on me. No way. And that picked up the attention of Team Dignitas, and they came to me and said, hey, we'd like you to do some coaching for our players, which caused me to go to them, which eventually, because I'd run some businesses in the past, they were like, you're pretty kind of below your pay grade. So they put me up to North America like head with in coordination with Odie at the time. Yeah. And then that was my window into CLG when George found me and came out with the CEO here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, crazy history.
So let's go back for a second, because what you said that since you like for forever, that's what you've been passionate about. Like, I want to know more about that piece also. Like how did that happen? Like 700 books, that takes a long time.
Yes. Yeah, I had a lot of time because I was an enormous procrastinator. And I was living that story where through my 20s, I was on video games. And like, I always kind of admire that passion story is like you consume a lot of personal development and you find that a lot of people, they come from these backgrounds of like, I had it tough. I had it like really hard. Like it was like I had to scrounge my way up. Like I learned to be hungry. And like my problem was always like I didn't have the hunger because I came from a great family. I had great parents who took care of me. I was extremely fortunate, but that also didn't give me that ability to claw, and I couldn't fight. And so I played video games 16, 18 hours a day. I procrastinated, but I knew like somewhere in the back of my mind, I had to change my life. And that's why I started reading those books and consuming that content. It was a slow burn. And like what happened was when I guess the story I didn't tell was like when I got to that Twitch TV broadcast, it was after years of like just like reshaping that clay into making that person. And I was like, I actually figured out the way to go from being a procrastinator to a person that is effective. Can I teach that to other people? And that was my passion. Is why I started motivational speaking. It's like there are so many gamers out there that are like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know what to do. I like, and like you go to an event like PAX East that we're at right now, and there's 160,000 people here, all because they want to be a part of a community. And so can you get in front of those people and say, no, like there is a way? Because I would always see these guys who like they had the tough backing and they had the tough life, right? And so they kind of clawed their way up. But for a person without that motivation, it's tough. Yeah. So I said, like, what if I could be that kind of catalyst to people and say, hey, if you're a normal guy or girl, like you can do it. Because that's what I was. Like that's what I am. Mm-hmm. Anyone can do something. You can do it too. Yeah.
So there's so much that I want to get out of that. So like, okay, so you talked about like when you said molding clay, like that was kind of forming and shaping what you were doing. Yeah. Like how, like, I don't want to just jump into and say exactly what I want. I want to come from you. So like, how do you describe that in more detail? Because like what I'm hearing is you say like, I learned, I grew, I looked at something, decided how it was going to be different and try to learn from that experience and shape my, go through those things and build from that. But that's kind of how I see it. So like, I want to hear how you see it. Like, how did that happen? That growth part? Because I hear that through the Twitch and the Justin TV into the Twitch, I felt a lot of growth. And is that kind of what you're talking about? Is like that's where that growth was happening, or was there other parts along? I know it was like a gradual, or I don't know the speed, but I hear that it was like a build up, like you said, a slow burn. But can you kind of pull on and explain more of that and what that looked like?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like self-improvement is a slow burn, but it has these huge periods of an upswing. So you look at people that are like overnight successes, and you look at them and you say that person just came on the scene. Yeah. But what you don't see is the years and years of work and grind that they put into that to make that happen. So what happens is people always, like, the media kind of like paints this portrayal of successful people as relatively lucky. But when you actually like delve into the numbers on it, very, very few of them, if any of them, are actually acquiring that success instantaneously. And if they do, it's a flame and it's gone. Whereas the people that actually sustain it have worked their way up for hours and years and years. And so like, if I'm like suddenly an esports CEO and people are like, what happened? It's because I had 8 freaking years of reading the books and like figuring it out, right? Like I only came on the scene in my 30s. Yeah. And so it was never, it was like, there was years and years of prep that went behind that. And I think a lot of people that are emailing me, or they're looking for a position in esports, or they're looking for a career in gaming, which is a passion of a lot of people that are probably listening to this. Yes. Right? The best advice I have is like, it's a slow burn. It's like, it's not something that you're going to get into right away. And you have to add a lot of value to yourself and a lot of value to others before you can actually get there. Gandhi said you have to chip all the marble off of your own shoulder before you can build a sculpture. And it's the years of preparation that gets you to that point. Yeah. And so, yeah, it was absolutely a slow burn. Like, it may have those quick shots upward, but it's definitely the slow burn to get you there. Yeah. Absolutely.
So we were just talking before, and Gary Vee was someone that we listened to a lot. Yeah. And
amazing, man.
Yeah. So I was watching a video actually yesterday, the day before, and he was talking about how it's like macro is slow and micro is fast. And so like the idea of hustle now, like answer that email, talk to that person, engage in the moment, and then, but have like more long term in terms of like where you're looking for things to go in the future. Like, and so don't expect that thing to be built overnight. And that's kind of what I'm hearing you say. Like, is that something that resonates with you?
Yeah, I use a technique called RPM, which is the Tony Robbins concept. And it's called results planning and mapping, or rapid planning management, depending on like how you take it. And what it is I've modified it a lot over the years, but the idea is that you have a very clear and concise set of outcomes for a 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 3 month, and 6 month period. And you get a very good idea of what you want to accomplish, and it kind of all flows together into a sort of amalgamation of that of results that get you to where you want to go. So, for example, I'll have my goals, the micro that I want to do during the day, and I'll have what I'll do is every day I'll look and I'll say, what are the most effective practices that I can implement that will then move this forward, either my company or whatever. And so this goes back to my monthly goals, right? Which is I have what's called the Vital 3. And the Vital 3 is the 3 most critical goals that I think I need to push myself forward. They could be physical, mental, spiritual, financial, it's whatever. And so my day will be spent, how do I figure out the most effective way today in that microcosm to actually push those goals forward? And then I do a monthly thing every month where I say, how do I push my goals forward on a monthly basis? And then I coordinate those to a year. So there's an intense amount of planning that goes into a successful life. And the people that are looking for a career or looking for something to be successful and they're making it, they have a very clear idea of where they want to go. You have to start there. And I think a lot of it is documentation. People are afraid to write it down. And one of the things I do on my YouTube channel is I always post my goals for the month publicly. And I hold myself accountable, because when I screw up or I have a 50% completion rate, I want people to comment and I want them to let me know. Yeah.
So that, man, So that part right there, I just want to go right into, because like that's some emotional vulnerability right there. Like to be able to say, hey, like that's authentic.
All on the table.
What that basically, what I'm hearing is like in the macro is like I'm hearing authenticity, right? You're like, this is what I am, this is what I do, and you can see it. But that can be scary. You can feel pain, emotional pain, and. But it can also, but I also see it as something that you can decide how you want to internalize that, right? Because you can use that also as a way for growth. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that you experience those things, but I when I hear that, that's what I'm curious about. Let's go. Yeah. So what's that like to be like that open and authentic to people that you interact with?
To me, there's no pain like regret.
Okay.
I think regret is the biggest pain, and everything that drives me is because I know I'm going to be 95. And I'm going to look back and I'm going to say, was the time that I spent doing the most amount of good and impact for people? And you know in your heart you can't bullshit yourself when you're when you're there, you know? Yeah. You can't go back and say I could do it any differently. You're out of time. Yeah. And that is like, a lot of people ask me, they're like, how do I get over that pain of I'm going to go in public, I'm going to hold myself accountable, I'm going to speak in front of a bunch of people, and maybe I say dumb stuff all the time. I'm going to say at least 3 things in this interview that are ridiculously stupid, and it's gonna happen, you know. But the thing that you contrast that against is the overbearing reality that you just don't have time to worry about that stuff, because life is a one track and it's very fast, and as soon as it's over, you look back and you go, well, I either did something that was my own personal definition of fulfillment, or I didn't. And that's that, my friend. Like after that, you got nothing left. And so that by the way, that doesn't change the fact that it's scary, right? And that it's hard. Yeah. It's not taking away from that. Yes. Every single time that I have an interview or I go on stage, I'm still scared. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say though is that before that's what helps you work through that. That's what helps remind you and give you that base for saying like, yeah, I feel that, but that doesn't matter because this is more important to me.
You run the cost versus benefit and you say the regret is going to be so much worse.
Yes. The hard part, I think, though, is that like the regret's future oriented, right? So we can't always feel that.
You nailed it.
Yes. And so like in the moment, like that's what keeps us stuck. Yeah. And so because we're feeling that, you know, that immediate fear. And so we live in that space rather than like getting like thinking more long term.
Yeah, it's completely correct. I think again, like understanding where you're going to go is the remedy to that. Yeah. So like you're going to force your mind to think on a longer scale because life is full of contrasts and hypocrisy. So like I just said, we have no time because we have one life, but we have so much time, right? Like there's so much time and so many years and so many days. One of my favorite essays on this is by Lucius Seneca. It's a Stoic. It's called On the Shortness of Life. Okay. And what it basically says is that everybody says, if you talk to anybody, they say, I don't have time, I'm busy. But all you have is time, right. And actually you're awarded plenty of it if you spend it properly. Like 24 hours in a day is an incredible amount of time when you actually break it down. The problem is everybody spends it watching cats on Roombas. So what happens is like they're like, why do I have no time? Because you spend 8 hours on social media, though. Yeah. Like what do you want? Like you're creating what you're manifesting. Yeah.
I've also found that, at least for me, that there's times when like I feel like I'm trying to do what I want to do, but like I'm not actually efficient in that time. So I'm like, so I can trick myself, right? I can be like, oh yeah, I'm working on this, but really it took me 5 times longer than what I needed to, or I wasn't being purposeful at all, so I wasn't really getting any growth out of it. Instead, I was just like kind of spinning stuff. So like do you ever experience that? And if so, like how do you kind of get back on track with that?
Of course, inertia is a very real thing. I'll tell a story to illustrate this because I think it's probably the best way. Yeah, stories are wonderful. And this is a Cherokee story. And it's about a boy who goes to his grandfather and he says, and his grandfather tells him a story that says that when you grow, as you're growing into becoming a man, you will encounter every day a battle in your soul between a wolf with pure white fur and a wolf with pure gray fur. And the white wolf represents clarity and success and motivation and kindness and humility. And the gray wolf represents procrastination and inertia and that mental fog and anger and hatred and jealousy. And that battle will wage in your soul every single day when you wake up. Every day it wages again. And the boy goes, well, grandfather, which wolf wins the battle? And he says, it's the one you feed.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is it, right? Is this like this expectation, this expectation of people that motivation is a destination. It is somewhere where you end up. It is not. It is like people don't realize that every day I wake up, they're like, oh, it must be so amazing. You run this big business. Like, dude, I wake up and all I want to do is play Overwatch and eat ice cream, right? Like every day. Like, yeah, it's it's the cold shower. It's the hot yoga. It's the mantras. It's the writing it down. I jump up and down in my living room. You know, I do crazy stuff. I'll do whatever it takes to get my body and my blood and my mind in the moment so that I can get that momentum going.
So what I'm hearing there, and I'm cheating because I know a lot about this, because I practice it myself, and because I teach it to others. But I'm hearing mindfulness. I'm hearing like a mindfulness practice, at least in terms of at least things that can fit in that sphere. I'm not sure if that's what you call it or if that's what you do, but the idea of like yoga or the idea of being, you're saying present in the moment, right? And like, because we can sometimes, you know, I could be having this interview with you and my mind could be like dinner tonight, right? And and first of all, I'll be missing out on a great opportunity, and second of all, like then that's like we're talking about wasting time.
People feel it too.
Yeah. Exactly. Don't they? Yes. Yeah. And so like not only is it injustice to the person you're with, but like you're also doing it to yourself maybe without even noticing it. So getting back to you. So like you're saying that you do those things and it helps you to kind of ward off those things of other stuff that you could be wanting to be doing, and that helps you. And so like, is that mindfulness for you, or what do you call that, or how does that work?
There is a Vipassana practice in it. So I've done Theravada Buddhism for many years, practiced it, and in that is a Vipassana practice. I think there's also a lot of really practical stuff. Like I try to only take the coldest showers I can because it knocks my mind into that mindset. I'll do a lot of physical exercise. So that includes hot yoga, which is another, like, I think extreme temperatures and extreme ways that you can put your body into shocking states will sort of put your mind back into awareness. A lot of people think of especially now, and this is going to happen like as meditation. I think meditation is like the next really big thing. Yeah. And you're going to start to see like these meditation studios and stuff show up, and like that's going to work for some people, but for a lot of people that are like, my intuition tells me like you're very high powered. So like you're very like get after it type of person. There's a lot of people like that. They're going to have a hard time sitting down for 20 minutes. So the answer for those people is like get into a physical activity that just challenges just drives you, right? And like hot yoga for me, that was something that I started about 9 or 10 months ago, and now I do it 5 times a week. And so it's full Bikram, 120 degrees, and you do it for an hour, and you're just in it. And it's also cool because yoga inherently has a meditative aspect to it, where you do shavasana and you're in that state. And but I think the easiest way, it's like, if you want to wake up your mind and get out of the fog and you have no resources and you're playing a lot of video games, you know you want to stop, you're listening to this podcast, you just want to get after it tomorrow, turn the water all the way to cold in your shower and stand under it, and you'll be there. That's all it takes.
The body is awesome, and like releasing those endorphins will just like boom, right?
Right there.
Right there.
And you'll have a great day.
Yes, for sure. So I've appreciated your Snapchat because I followed it for a while now, and it's really cool because to see that part of the living it too, right?
Yeah.
And so like this has to, like, I just interacting with you, I can like, it feels like it emanates off you, and like we just had an awesome interaction with someone even before this, just because, you know, people can engage with you. And like, how does that trickle down? Because there's no way that this doesn't impact CLG as you know. Well, obviously you're the CEO, right? And I think that is in of itself tells that. But like, is there a story that comes along with how that impacts like your company in general?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing is that we are not necessarily win driven as one of our primary KPIs. That's not to say that we don't dedicate an absurd amount of infrastructure towards that goal. It is to say that where one of my primary KPIs, like my key performance indicator as a CEO, is can I get someone like Darshan on our League of Legends team in front of the 18 to 35-year-old people that are watching him, and show them that by going to the gym, that by doing visualization, by eating right, and by living these tenets that are very pragmatic and everybody kind of knows them, but he's living them. It's allowing him to be a better competitor and allowing him to go after the goals that he wants to do. And I feel like a lot of people that look up to him will say that by looking at him do that, they will too be inspired. So one of CLG's massive missions in the world is to actually tell that narrative. Yeah. And right now that's predominantly through video content and Instagram and like all the stories that we're trying to do. So we are first a team that is community driven and wants to reach out to people and say, like, you can really be part of something. Yeah. I see esports as more of a medium to broadcast that message than I do anything else. I think there are a lot of things that esports is and a few things that it isn't. Right. But one of the things that it definitely is to me that I wish would gain more traction is a window into the souls of so many 18 to 35-year-old people who are looking for answers and trying to figure out what to do next. And these players are role models for those people. And so every player we field, we look at attitude first, and we try to recruit on that basis.
That's really cool. That's really cool. And so what I'm hearing you say is like it's like it grows from your company, and then that's how you can spread it out. Like it's not something that it's just like service talk to be able to kind of just make more sales. Instead, like based upon what you're saying, and like because people can think that, right? Because I've heard people say, and not about CLG, I'm just saying like in general, then people can be like, oh, you're just, I don't know what words they want to use. They could say things like I don't know. Basically, that they think it's fake. Like it's all for talk, and that's the thing. They can think what they want, right? And what I think is cool is like you guys are like living it. Like that's so cool. Exactly. Like it's not something that like you guys just talk about. It's something that you like show and like you. And
why are we at PAX East? Do you think I wouldn't be making more money if I was hustling deals back in LA right now instead of shaking hands for people on the floor? I absolutely can hire someone for that. The reason I'm here and the reason our top guys are here, our head of social media, our head of business development, all the people are here is because we freaking care about the community, and we want to know from them. And oh, by the way, that adds us tremendous value because those people are going to tell us, here's exactly what we think and what we're like, and now I know how to actually go back to them and provide them value. Yeah. The long game is always the right game. It's just that people don't want to play it because the short-term profits are so sexy, especially in this climate.
Right.
Yeah, it's like you're seeing so many investors come in and looking for 4 or 5x multipliers in 3 to 4 years. It's not going to happen because the long game isn't like the esports is the long game. Gamers know that they broke off from traditional conventions and stuff like that to go to PAX because of its authenticity and because of its commitment to gaming. Yeah. So I'm feeling like we're trying to continue that tradition and not bullshit anybody. Yeah.
Well, I wanted you to get to that point. Yeah. So I appreciate you putting in those words because that's what I wanted to hear. Because and it's absolutely true. Like right before we started trying to find a place to do this, like you spent like 5 minutes with the guy that was decked out in CLG stuff. Like you took time for just it's really cool. So
because I owe that guy my company. Like that's the dude that is our greatest evangelist. And I mean, a person that is willing, so for context, this guy carved a CLG logo in like, I think foam or wood or something. It looked like wood on his arm. And he just had like battle Viking, like paint. He had the socks. Yeah. I mean, this guy's decked out. Yeah. Like, jersey. So I immediately went to our head of social media and said, put that guy on social media. Like that dude is amazing. Right. And like, give him a shout out here because he was super cool. And like, that's the person that is going to be carrying us forward. He's going to be the first one standing up at events. That's amazing that someone would take the time and have that passion. I'm honored that like we can provide some kind of positive impact to a person enough. They say I'm impacted by this enough that I will live that message. That's so cool. And like, that's not about us. Yeah. Like that's about his like definition of what CLG is. He put that in and projected it outward into that. Right. And that's like, we can't live up to that. Like that's it's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome.
That's so cool. Well, I want to honor our time. I have just a kind of closing up. So I've always wanted to ask this. You probably have had hundreds of interviews or talks and whatnot. What's like the thing that no one ever asks you? Maybe they've already asked this question. Have you had this question before? Because like, what's the thing that like you're like, I wish they'd ask about this. Like, I really like what would that be? Is there anything?
Wow. So surprisingly, I would say it's already a lot of the questions you've asked, which is like, why do you do this? Because there's a lot of people that want to know about the industry. I think there's a lot of interviews that cover those questions and say where esports is going, which I'm really happy to answer. And I'm happy to field those here as well for your audience or anything they want to know about League of Legends. Yeah. I have a lot of time. So like, if you need me, like ask some questions about the industry, let's go. I do think for that though, that the real, like, what is the real underlying message as to why I'm here and why I'm not somewhere else is a question I really like to answer. Yeah. And you nailed it. Like, first off, you're like, off the bat was like, what's important to you? And it's like, it's not like the outward, like, filling up stadiums and being on stage at Madison Square Garden and looking out on 18,000 people, that was surreal. Yeah. And I'll never forget that moment. But the day-to-day is not that. The day-to-day is in an office or putting out fires, like grinding out stuff that is really hard problems to solve. And then, like, you kind of look up at the sky and you're like, why am I doing this? And like, the thing that keeps you going day to day is like, it is about inspiring people and it is about a bigger message. And I know that keeps me in for the long game. Yeah. And that is why I do it. And that is the question I wish people would ask, is because I think that should also inspire other people to go for their careers in that way. It's like you shouldn't be there for a paycheck. You should not be there for your short-term gain. Life is too short. Yeah. You have to get into something that you are seriously passionate about. And I don't mean that as a cliche. I mean, take the time to figure out what is valuable to you and then do as much as you can to build a portfolio around that and to build an actual set of skills that you can get into that position. And that's the thing that's going to drive you. It's not the gain. It's not the popularity or the fame or the money. It doesn't make you happy, I promise.
So what I'm hearing you found for you was like a value system for you, or like the things that like when you like that didn't ever go away. Like there was things that were fleeting that you could have liked or wanted to do, and you want to learn more about yourself and kind of figure out like what you, but like how did you get to that point to where like you knew like this, like, and I kind of go back a little bit to when I was talking about all the 700 books and whatnot. Yeah. Like how did you figure that out for yourself? Because like I mean I think it's I'll stop it there. How did you figure that out for yourself?
Self-awareness is really tough. It's something that I've been really trying to figure out the answer to this, and it's something.
Me too.
Yeah. It's like, do you always have it, or is it something that you get born with, or is it? And maybe no one, like, obviously, this question's been asked since philosophers first tried to figure this stuff out. There's probably no concrete answer. It's obviously always shades of gray. For me, I guess I always knew. Well, I guess what happened to me was I came close enough to the. This is gonna get pretty heavy, but it's just the truth. It's transparent. I came close enough to the realization of death that I was gonna die, and that I don't mean like I have some illness or like, thank God, like I'm a very healthy person, but I mean like my time here is limited. I'm not going to be the first immortal, I'm pretty sure. And I'm pretty sure we're not going to figure out like putting brains into rope. I think like I'm going to just miss that.
I think that's how I think too. Yeah, we're definitely going to get screwed on that for sure.
Exactly. So I'm like, all right, so I'm going to join the other like billions of people in the ground. And so like what do I want to do while I'm here? And that was a big existential question that really shakes your soul when you really ask it. And the only answer you can really come up with as a result of that kind of search is, man, I really need to impact other people. I'm not even sure why it is, but it's like, it's the only thing that feels right. Because it's like, well, anything that I acquire is just going to be gone anyway, and I'm not going to be happy with it because it's going to be gone. So why am I here? Yeah. Well, it's got to be to make other people better and to make other people happy, because at the very least that establishes legacy, and their kids and those people's kids lives on in the kind of human continuum, and that message gets spread. People forget about me 15 minutes after this interview. Back to cats on Roombas. Yeah, strong stuff, but that's fine. I'm absolutely okay with that, right? But like maybe there's a small thing that kind of continues on. They're like, yeah, good idea. Like I get it, and that's it, yeah. Right? Like that. So that was what allowed me to develop this desire to improve. Was really surrendering this idea that I needed some amount of money or some amount of material gain, and really going into it with the idea to truly add value to other people without asking. Yeah. And then that actually made me more materially successful than I could possibly imagine. Yeah. Because once you give it up, that's when it comes.
So save that, all that you heard that, because that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Like being able to say like, well, how would you like, I guess I don't want to change anything other than what you said. I want to expand on it, but I can't in the moment, and I like it the way it was. So thank you. That was really good. So this is my space, like this concept we're talking about. Like, I love this stuff.
Yeah.
I could keep talking about that, but I also know that some people probably also want to get some content on just kind of like the general stuff. I don't know how they ask the questions.
Happy to provide value.
So like, can you just give me like an overview of like what people normally ask you about that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Is this specific to League of Legends right now?
League of Legends is awesome because we have that's like our main, a really huge base.
Okay.
But I don't know like whether you guys are getting into the Overwatch scene too.
We have an Overwatch team.
Okay.
We have 9-10 teams now. Oh, wow. So we have 2 teams in Smash, two teams in League, including a Challenger division. We have a CSGO team, a CSGO girls team. Awesome. We have an H1Z1 team. We have a Hearthstone team. Yeah, we're all over the place. I think we're the actual largest esports organization maybe on Earth right now. I don't want to make that claim lightly, but we have 10 teams. I know we're the largest in North America, and Cloud9 is a close second, but we might actually be the largest team and by player and by staff. Wow. That's it. Yeah, I think that might be true. Okay. Yeah. Really Fnatic might come close, but we're pretty big. Yeah, that's pretty big. So the overview of League of Legends, is there. Yeah, the general questions are like, how is the viewership doing? What do you think the game is going? Stuff like that. Okay. So I'll confess that my biggest weakness here is I actually don't know what was publicly announced and what wasn't. So I have to be really careful with that. So maybe you could catch me up on what you know, and then I can bounce off that.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess like what I'm kind of stuck, to be honest, because like I guess like in terms of what you're looking for with just the teams in general, you said that winning isn't necessarily focused, and we've kind of gone through a lot of that stuff. I guess just like what, like, are you guys looking to try to acquire more teams at some point? Like, what's like, are you trying to expand on what you, or build what you already have? Like, are there teams where you're trying to increase more of like their like that kind of stuff? That's what I was thinking, but because man, like I said, my space is more just talking about what we just were, so I felt more comfortable with that. Yeah. Like the ins and outs of like the business side of it, and just kind of like how all that's being shelled out. Like, I'm probably not going to give you questions that are going to give you some stuff. So
I think the audience wants to know what's happening with the players and like what's happening with the esport as a whole. So I'll try to cover that as best I can. The players, I think, are in a state of flux. You have a lot of VC, which is venture capital, so a lot of money coming into the scene. And what that money is doing is it's raising the salaries of players exorbitant amounts. Whereas I don't think the ROI is there in the sense that like we can't figure out as an industry how to pay that back, because that's primarily going to come out in the form of CPC advertising. So that would be like your standard Google AdWords or Facebook stuff. And that is not currently at value to what the player salaries and what the costs of running the team are. Riot, I think, is cognizant of that, and they're making steps to improve it, though I don't know how much I can say. Yeah. But safe to say that I think they're making those moves. So what the big disconnect is in the next year or two is you're going to see player salaries go well beyond what is reasonable to pay. And what's going to happen is I think that investors that are looking for short-term multipliers, so typically, like, as to provide some context on this, when investors are getting into an industry, they're usually looking for an exit between 3 to 5 years, and they're trying to make more money than they put in. Yeah. And some people are very long game and they're looking for like 7 to 10 years. Esports, I think the people that are looking to 7 to 10 will win. I think that esports will probably take a correction and a dip in the next 2 to 3 years, and the people that actually wait it out will win. Because esports will then know what to do with this audience. But we're spending a lot of time trying to educate brands that are not endemic to the space and don't know what they basically don't know what to do yet. Hey, this is where the attention is, and there's some cool stuff you can do here that's going to be a better media buy than your Facebook ads, or let's go a step back, than your TV ads that you're spending $50 million on that no one's watching, especially in our age group. Right. No one's watching that stuff. Right. So League of Legends stands as kind of the number one mover of that message, right? And what's happening is there's going to be a gap in time where I think players previously there was a lot of questionable treatment of players in the last 3 to 4 years of the ecosystem. And that's going to go in the reverse, where I think players are going to have an enormous amount of leverage because talent is limited. And where you're going to see talent really come up is collegiate.
Okay.
So you're already seeing that with places like RMU, SBU, Southern Baptist University, Robert Morrison University are establishing programs. The wide majority of League of Legends talent will be sourced from 2 LCS teams from there, but it's going to take some momentum for those groups to get going. So in the meantime, the current talent in the LCS is very limited. There's only 200 players that are really good. I mean, they're like or viewed as good.
Yes.
Because I think it'd be more appropriate to say that I believe personally, and this is not a popular opinion, that there are a lot of people on the collegiate level who are capable of being LCS quality very fast, but nobody's treating it like that.
Okay.
We barely just saw that with Team Liquid, where Yongbin just came in and he's now a 80 carry for Team Liquid, and he came straight out of collegiate.
Wow.
He literally dropped out of school to join the LCS. Now, I think that has some challenges with it because maybe he wasn't particularly LCS ready, like he needed more time, whatever. But that remains to be seen. So right now, the players in the next 1 to 2 years are going to have an enormous amount of leverage on their contracts and salary. But if that goes too far south, what's going to happen is that investors are not going to be interested in paying those numbers, and we're going to see a short-term crash. Okay. Then collegiate catches up, talent starts to be sourced, and then the market catches up with it. Okay. And then all this stuff sort of comes to a head, and now you're starting to see esports grow into its grows past its teenage years, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah, makes sense.
But people need to stop siphoning, and you've got a lot of people that are taking money, a lot of third parties that are taking money out and trying to maximize their gains and their cash. And what's happening is it's crippling the industry because it's not causing teams, and this is obviously my opinion, to have the resources they need to really create results with players. So what I'm saying is, like, I am not sitting on a pot of gold, and I think we are the only team left besides Team Solomid that doesn't have investment in the LCS. Wow. So we're looking at a situation where we're pretty under-resourced, and we're not getting a lot of help from anybody on that because a lot of people like their money. And it frustrates me a lot because what's happening is I am having a lot of trouble taking care of my players infrastructurally. And again, I'm not paying myself or my staff some ridiculous rate. Like, we're not holding money, like we're in it. And that's why so many people are seeking investment, because they need to take that 2 to 3 year period and get some money on the side so that they can sustain. So does that help a little bit?
Yeah, that was really good. I appreciate that. Like, it was because I'm hearing some things like there could be like a bubble in a sense of like I think so. Yeah.
No one wants to talk about it, but I think that's true. Yeah.
And I've also heard some talks about things like, having that stability is important because, like, we don't need to get into this if it's not something that fits, but because I'm not sure what you can or can't talk about, but the idea of like relegation and how the Cleveland Browns would have been relegated in the NFL like 15 years ago. Right? But they're still an org. I know that that's kind of a hard comparison as apples to oranges, but the idea of like allowing to have stability because players, is their org still going to be something that they can stick with, or is their team now relegated and now they're not sure if they're going to get paid the way that they were, not just because.
They definitely will. Right. Yeah. Relegation is scary, and I think it's something that needs to be out of a respectively franchised league. It's something that Riot is very cognizant of, because the untold story of what relegation really hurts is the brands. Because imagine if you still had people like Hotshot or Skara in the LCS. And they're still very viable competitors. Like, if we really had to, we had Hotshot for a sub for the last 2 years. Like, we really had to, we throw that guy in top lane and we do okay. I mean, people are on the podcast are like, oh my God, what are you talking about? But no, again, like, those players can get to Challenger pretty simply. I mean, they've done it, like, even in today's age. So, like, to let those players go, because it's very feast or famine. Either you are fielding talent and continuously benching players that are underperforming. And like, look, like the thing is, I'm very convinced. I've seen a lot of players benched that were underperforming for what I think might have been a 3-month period, and they could have very easily bounced back. But because of the relegation system, we cannot afford to have that player in for that amount of time. And so they're gone. But that player might be a massive brand. And that brand might be one that a lot of people that are listening to this podcast know and love. Now that person is effectively out of the scene with very few options. And some people like Scara, for example, they find their own. They go into casting, or they go into something like that. But the wide majority fall off the face of the earth. And that is a major cost in the long term to League of Legends, because it's those brands that are the flagships for the game. And when you lose that, you're losing something really special. And so like, I think all of this introduction of these new players and constantly bringing in people into the LCS and like not giving the time to tell the story and the narrative. Yeah. This is one of my partner, George, who owns the team. He is one of the biggest advocates of this, is that we do not spend the time, none of us, not the publishers, not the teams, not Riot Games. We are all guilty in this, to tell the narrative and to tell the story. Why does this freaking matter? Why does CLG versus TSM matter every single time it happens? What is that rivalry? Why do I look across the stage at Reggie and glare at him? Like, why does that happen? Right? Like what is that? Right? And like to tell that narrative. Like get people to care and get people to matter. That is the death that is happening, that people are not talking about as a result of systems like that.
I don't want to. So I got to start wrapping up on my end. I would love to talk for forever. But I want to riff off that for just a second, and that's to say, like, you know, when I work with players, then one of the things I try to help them with is you know, teamwork in the team, or just individually too. Like, so like, and I know that you can talk about this, so that's why I bring it up, because like, I don't see it as much with CLG, but I see it with some of those teams that, like you talk about, trying to grab to make sure that they can just claw their way either out of relegation to where they're not in it. And so, like, it sounded like they could. That what I'm seeing is players just getting, you know, cycled through till you find something that fits for a second. Yeah. But then there's that, you know, the chemistry. Like, you guys have had very similar core for a while now, and I think a lot of the teams that have done well have something similar to that. They may have one or two that kind of shift at times, because sometimes you have to with new talent, but the point is like, it takes time to build something, right? We talked a little bit about how it's a slow burn just in life, and like, I think that sports is a good metaphor for that often, and I think esports can be too. And do you see any, like you talked about casualties, do you see casualties in terms of player as well as team growth because of that relegation system, or any other systems that cause people to be more for that quick in the moment response rather than trying to build a team for the long haul?
Yeah, the system begets that response, like we were kind of talking about. It's not the fault of the teams. Like, I guess the one that I think is really in people's minds that's fresh right now is Steve Aronson, the Team Liquid's pickup of Double Lift, right? Why did that happen? Because he needs to save his freaking team. Yeah. And if he does, and like, what kind of inexorbitant amount of money did he pay for that contract? I don't even know. It was a lot. It was a lot. I don't know the number. But it was a lot. I was looking it up, but I was like, I don't know what's out there. I mean, I know the range, and like, I can imagine it because of context. Yeah. It's an absurd amount. Yeah. So why did that happen? Because if Steve doesn't so Liquid is a great organization backed by great people. Mm-hmm. Steve is a very knowledgeable owner. So is Victor, his partner. They're very intelligent. Every team goes through these dips. I think a really important thing to remember, and some of the very old listeners here might remember, CLG was one game away from relegation at one point. Counter Logic Gaming, the company that is here, that is doing all this stuff, that is the largest esports team in the world at this point, I think I can say. It's very close, if not. Yeah. Was one game away from relegation. We would not exist. And everything we've created from that day forward to now would not be. How is that right? Like that is messed up, right? Liquid is the same story right now. Like, with Liquid got relegated at this point, that is so absurd, because they run a great company, and Steve is a great dude, and like Liquid itself is a fully staffed organization with infrastructure, and they can make it happen. Yeah. Mm.
No, I that's something that concerns me. I mean, I don't absolutely, yeah. And so, I appreciate you talking about that, because that's like going back to when just that growth thing, those kind of things, like there's going to be times like in our lives or in esports or whatever, where there's going to be in traditional sports too. I mean, I could go on a long rant about just different teams and how, whether, there's so many different ways you can see this in life. And hopefully soon we'll have some more stability in our esports culture with some of that stuff too, specifically at least League of Legends. So
we will. Yeah, I can say with confidence that I think Riot Games does see that. And they do see the benefits of longevity, and you're going to start to see them commit to that in a more real way in the future. Yeah.
Awesome. That is great to hear and a great thing to wrap up on, man. So again, I would love to keep talking to you with you. Thank you so much for this time. This is, that would be awesome. Yeah. So this was awesome. Thank you so much. I can't say enough. So thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Can I shout a few people out?
I would love that, and I'd also love for you to kind of let us know where we can hit you up, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you to CLG sponsors. That's iBuyPower, Corsair. We have a lot. Those are the guys that are directly working with us at the event this time. We also have some wonderful sponsors, and if you wanted to reach me, you can reach me. I guess the easiest thing I would say is if you're kind of interested in the self-improvement aspect of this, I have a YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Devin Nash. And that's DEVINNASH. And that is a channel that uploads pretty much 3 times a week. And we do lots of videos that are relevant to gaming, lots of videos that are relevant to self-improvement and kind of how to find your path in this, as related to gamers. So I talk to gamers. And you can find me on Twitter, also at Devin Nash, or Snapchat and Instagram at Devin M. Nash. And that's where I spend a lot of my time. I do videos there every day. I mean, I get after it on social media. I'm active every day. So I'm very active there. There's a lot you can find. I respond to everything. So I would say, as far as CLG goes, I just wanted to express my absolute gratitude. I'm one part of a much more meaningful team of people that work very hard. So the people that aren't talked about, like Julia from our social media team, like John from our business development, Matthew from our esports development, Brian from our operations, and Chris from our community. These are my directors that run the whole thing, and they're all amazing people. So thank you to the people that work at CLG. Thank you to all of our sponsors who actually make this company possible, and thank you to you for taking the time to have this interview with me. And it really means a lot. I hope I can provide this audience some value. Thank you to you guys for following this podcast and for doing everything you do. So
awesome. Thank you so much, man. That was great. Yeah, we'll do it again for sure.
Yeah,
that's so cool. All right. Thanks.